Well, glory be and mercy me. We've done it yet again. Here we are, daily walk around the graveyard. Kind of a cold, dreary, rainy day today, but that's okay. Gives it a nice smell. If you've got the opportunity to go out and touch grass, as they say, I highly suggest it. It is actually beautiful out in the world once you get up away from the cars and all the pollution and all the traffic and all that. So, what are we talking about today? Well, turns out, you guys know there's a housing crisis going on, huh? Rates dropped by 12% or something. Housing market dropped by 10 or 12% recently. The line went down like that, just a little bit, even after skyrocketing like this, and everybody's like, oh, it's gonna happen. Nope, it's just gonna go boop, and then gonna go woo, right back up, right? And why? Well, there's one MP in Manitoba by the name of Daniel Blakey who actually had the temerity to tell the truth about this issue.
But so that Canadians that want to find their way into a home are having to compete or take on deep-pocketed corporate investors. And that's what's structurally wrong with the Canadian housing market. There are people out there that'll tell you different things about that. The Liberals so far have only been willing to take action in respect of foreign buyers, but we know they only represent about 5% of the market. Conservatives will tell you it's government spending, it's the Bank of Canada, it's anything that they can say that will cause people to look away from the real problem, which is giant corporate profits that have been made by turning what should be a market that's about people getting their family home into an asset class to make money on.
So this starts to beg the question. How come some backbencher MP from Manitoba is the only guy actually telling the truth about it? Jagmeet Singh's not telling the truth about it. Andrea Horwath's not telling the truth about it. Certainly not Doug Ford, Pierre Poilievre, Jason Kenney, any of the prominent politicians across. And then Steve Del Duca, right? Any of the Liberals, forget about them. And in fact, here's what Justin Trudeau had to say about it.
One of the challenges we're facing in Canada is our population with immigration and other things has been growing over the past years, and housing construction hasn't kept up.
So, I don't know about you guys, but I think that scapegoating immigrants for an issue in order to protect the rich is something that an extreme far-right fascist would do. Don't you think? Right? Like, here's Justin Trudeau standing in front of the nation saying, you know what the problem actually is with this housing market? It's not the investor class that's scooping up between 20 to 50% of the housing market, depending on the area you're in. No, it has nothing to do with the rich people buying up property so they can store their money somewhere because they've run out of things to buy. It has nothing to do with a collapse of a capitalist system and a return to feudalism, right, where land is the only commodity that's worth having anymore. Well, land and the people you get to do your work for you while you continue to do nothing of value whatsoever, right? No, it has nothing to do with that. In fact, the problem is those dirty immigrants, right? Even though he says it with that kind of princely arrogance that Justin Trudeau can have, the walking haircut that he actually is, even though in that clip his hair looked nice and flat and stupid just like he is, but blaming immigrants for an issue in order to protect the wealthy has predictable consequences. Why are they predictable? Because we've seen this story before, right? What happens when you start to scapegoat immigrants instead of the wealthy, right? What happens when the populace begins to believe that the problem are immigrants, not the rich? What happens? Well, you'll end up with a political class who go, oh yeah, the Liberals are right. The Liberals are correct. The issue are the immigrants. So we should do a Muslim ban. We should deport people. We should erect an organization in order to kick down people's doors, gather them up and deport them, or put them into detention centers. You know, like the ICE detention centers that exist all across America. The seeds for these kinds of actions are being planted by our Prime Minister when he says things like the issue is immigration instead of the fact that the billionaire class is scooping up all of the property and destroying the market. The end game for this, guys, is predictable. It's very straightforward, right? We are regressing back to feudalism, right? Capitalism has collapsed. The people who have the wealth because of the game of Monopoly that we've just been playing are being subsidized heavily by the state, by us. They have integrated themselves into the state apparatus. Politicians refuse to stand up to them because they're the true power now. People like Bezos, people like David Thompson in our society, the Irvings, right? This is a new monarchical class who are completely incentivized to destroy the democracy that exists, which is the only apparatus that has even the power and the authority in the society to stand up against them, right? As they purchase the housing market, right, they are simply going to own the land. They're simply going to buy up the property. They're simply going to have it, and they don't care if you're homeless. The only thing they're going to say to you is get a job or work harder, right? It's exactly the type of thing a psychotic capitalist would say. Why? Because they benefit directly from you working hard while they actively seek to abandon you and do nothing of value whatsoever. They don't work. They're not participating in the society in any meaningful way. And yet, they're the owners. They're the kings. And here's Justin Trudeau protecting them by scapegoating the immigrants, by scapegoating minority groups. And so what happens as this housing crisis gets worse? And it will get worse as we regress into this feudal structure. Well, the populace, historically, has not gone, gee willikers, I think we're being lied to about this immigration thing. And the real issue is that our rulers are manipulating us. We should stand up against them. No. Historically, the thing that actually happens is some political leader stands up and says, we've got to take control of the society and we've got to cleanse the society of these minority groups in order to restabilize the society. And the liberals and conservatives, of course, who have been saying out loud that the issue is immigrants the whole time, say, yes, that's correct. This is the path that Justin Trudeau is putting us on. It's predictable. You don't need to be a prophet. You don't need to be Nostradamus to see that this is the case. That if the society begins to scapegoat immigrants and minority groups, then they'll begin to pass policies and laws in order to attack and destroy those groups. You can see it all throughout the United States, and thanks to men like Justin Trudeau, you can see it happening here. We need to stand up against them. It's as simple as that. We're never going to vote away these problems, right? The entire political apparatus has been bought. The entire political apparatus has become corrupted. You can see that clear as day in the Liberal and the NDP party and their overt weakness. They exist exclusively to be just parties of dissent as people begin to dissent against capital, against the Conservative Party, which is the home of the death cult. The fallback position is just more capitalist parties, right? Nobody's actually standing up against the death cult, which is why we need to organize, right? I've got a live stream, 6 to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Monday through Thursday. Come on in. We're trying to get people organized and connected to groups. We're trying to grow things. We're trying to figure stuff out. Join your local Communist Party. Join local groups like Socialist Action. Join anybody, right? Get involved in serious ways, because this system is in collapse, and the leadership and the ruling class will happily revert us back into a feudal state while cleansing the society of anyone it can, as long as we allow them to continue having the means of production. Always remember, guys, you're a quantum being walking around in quantum energy. The billionaires are spending hundreds of billions of dollars in the vain hope that you'll never realize it, and you'll just stay the good little commodity they need you to be. Revolt, rebel, repent. Good luck. We're gonna need it.